We've got a couple stories today about ICE officers who are really bad people. The first one I'm going to talk about is really confusing. So there's apparently an ICE agent was a serial killer. Seriously. We'll read about that. But then we have this story right now that you're seeing on the screen. Arrested on sodomy and incest charges. And that's really weird. Sodomy is a pretty weird thing to charge someone with. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to define it, but apparently they don't. But it's a really weird charge to hear. So let's see what they say. So this is from Splinter. Keep in mind, Splinter used to be Fusion. It's where I used to work. Splinter is far left, very far left. A U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement deportation officer was arrested this week on 10 felony charges of sodomy and 1 charge of incest. Where are they sourcing? JacksonCounty.org. Let's see what. Let's pull this up real quick. See what they got here on this website. All right, it's just the straight information. State police detectives arrested Blake V. Northway, 55, of Medford, Oregon, last Thursday, following a joint investigation between the Oregon State Police and ICE's Office of Professional Responsibility. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement holds its officers to the highest standards of professional conduct and does not tolerate those who violate the law. ICE's public affair attorney Tanya Roman said in a statement, ICE will continue to cooperate until this case has been resolved. Northway, who was taken to Jackson County Jail, was placed on leave at his job pending the investigation. Authorities said the charges are not related to Northway's position at ICE. His bond was set at $1 million. That's a lot. Authorities did not release additional information about what led to Northway's arrest. And I just want to say, sodomy is a weird charge, right? I don't know how they define it in Oregon, but it typically refers to some kind of deviant sexual behavior not involving normal men and women. So I don't know what that could mean, but that could be pretty freaky, and incest. So that sounds really weird. Now, I want to point out, I feel like the only reason this story is getting any traction is because the guy worked for ICE. But his arrest his charges have nothing to do with what ICE does. So, what I conclude from there is, yes, sometimes people have jobs, and sometimes people are creepy weirdos. But the reason they're talking about it and writing about it is because it makes ICE look bad, right? But this has nothing to do with ICE. It's just, we got a couple stories. There is, the next story I think does. But what's interesting is intersectional feminism cannot remove different causes from each other, right? So we have this tweet here. If you bust out the pride photo filter, but also like spending your weekdays as a lawyer to deport and lock up brown people, you just might be in Portland. Here's Michelle Slayton, who also makes $120K for her work for DHS and ICE. And he's got this photo. So here's the thing. You can be for gay rights, and you can also not want illegal immigrants in your country. It's actually really simple. In fact, I would argue that a lot of Trump supporters are totally in favor of gay rights, but totally opposed to illegal immigration. I would also argue there are a lot of migrants who are gay or trans who also oppose illegal immigration. The fact of the matter is, within this idea of intersectional feminism, everything is related. Therefore, if you support one, you support all. The way they're saying, it's somehow wrong to support gay rights, but also be work for the DHS at the same time. No. I bet there's a lot of FBI agents and ICE agents and CIA agents who are totally for gay rights. In fact, I bet you there are a lot of ICE agents who are literally gay. Would that surprise anybody? No, it wouldn't, because sometimes people are gay. You can be conservative and gay. Did you know that? Apparently, these people don't realize that. Then he says, Southern Oregon, I got one for you too. Blake Northway of Medford is a frontline deportation officer who is proud to work for ICE. And what is that? Oh, okay, so now he's highlighting the guy who got arrested, I suppose. So yeah, the arrest was announced the same day that authorities in Texas arrested a Border Patrol agent. Okay, so I guess the next one isn't ICE, so I was wrong. Suspected of being a serial killer and charged him with killing 4 women near the border city of Laredo. A 5th victim managed to escape and flagged on a state trooper. And now we're going to pull up this story. So, okay, clarification, I was wrong. It wasn't an ICE agent, it's Border Patrol. But this story, absolutely newsworthy. I don't know why any national outlet, like Fusion's based in New York and Miami, Splinter is, why they're going to write about an ICE agent who, while he was not on duty and not related to his duties, was doing some kind of sodomy and incest. I don't know why that's really relevant for, but here I am talking about it, I guess so. So this one's about a Border Patrol agent. So they said, a U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agent suspected of being a serial killer was arrested early Saturday morning and accused of killing 4 women in the Laredo, Texas area. Several news outlets reported that Juan David Ortiz, a 10-year veteran at the agency, was arrested in a hotel parking lot in the border city of Laredo, and a fifth victim managed to escape an attempted kidnapping. The Associated Press reported that Ortiz worked as an intel supervisor for the Border Patrol. According to KRGV-TV, investigative producer Valerie Gonzalez Ortiz confessed to all 4 homicides. Gonzalez said the case is the second homicide investigation in Webb County involving a Border Patrol agent from the Laredo sector. Holy, is that for real? The second investigation. This guy, so this is CBP. People seem to confuse ICE and CBP, and I'm going to take some responsibility there because in the beginning I did assume this guy was an ICE agent, even though I had the article pulled up and I knew about this story. I screwed up, but that's what happens. A lot of people, they mix the two up. Customs and Border Patrol work the border. They work on border enforcement. ICE is internal. ICE does immigrations and customs enforcement in the country. They enforce the laws in the country. So I could be getting it wrong a little bit, but there is a difference. A lot of people are blaming ICE for what CBP does. And here we have this guy's Customs and Border. So we had this tweet says, Juan David Ortiz confessed to all 4 homicides. He is a 9-year veteran of Border Patrol, according to Webb County DA. This would be the second homicide investigation. I have to wonder if, this guy is in the Laredo sector. Second guy. Is there a potential connection, right? These guys may be doing some weird stuff together. Webb County District Attorney Isidro Alanes described the victims, whose name and nationalities have not yet been disclosed by authorities, as sex workers, the AP reported. According to the Dallas Morning News, the 2 victims were found earlier this month, we'll grab this story in a second, along Interstate 35 in rural Webb County, while 2 others were found this weekend in the same area. The newspaper said Ortiz had fled state troopers and hid in the parking lot where he was later arrested. A statement by Webb County Sheriff Martin Queller said, "We want to reassure the citizens of Laredo that community and families are safe," Houston Chronicle reported. Authorities said more details would be made public on Monday. So, Dallas News. I guess I can't actually read the Dallas News. So look, the first thing I want to say is, I just mentioned this, like, why are people even talking about this? Well, the first story about the ICE guy, I think, is crazy. It seems silly to bring up, people get charged with crimes all the time. I assure you there's crimes of weirdos in weird places you probably wish you never heard about. Unfortunately, the news doesn't cover it. At the same time, because it's ICE, people are going to say, oh, look at this story. Look at this guy getting arrested for doing weird things, even though it's unrelated. Now think about how you feel about that, right? Now I want to make a point. When you hear stories about illegal immigrants killing people, the same thing happens. Obviously Fox News, Breitbart, and right-wing outlets are going to say, hey, look, we got another story of an illegal immigrant killing a person. That doesn't mean that illegal immigrants are doing more or doing worse. I assure you, when you hear these stories about these people dying at the hands of illegal immigrants, there are other murders that happen around the same time that don't get reported because it's not as sensational. And don't get me wrong. My personal stance on the whole thing is, just because you are focused on the crime doesn't mean you are wrong, right? If an illegal immigrant killed somebody and enforcing immigration laws would have prevented that murder, I think it's still something worth talking about. And so a lot of people, one of the things that really annoys me and that I try to avoid, I'm not perfect, but I do try to avoid this, is people will say things like, whataboutism. Oh, you're complaining about this issue, but I don't see you complaining about this issue. Oh, you're complaining about, far-right violence. Why aren't you complaining about Antifa? Oh, you're complaining about Antifa. Why aren't you complaining about far-right violence? And I don't agree with that. I think it's stupid to do, specifically because I kind of understand why. You're not going to see me make a video every single day about, Adam Waffen, which is like, the far-right group, because they don't do that much. They're tiny. But I will talk about Antifa because it does relate to, like, politics on the ground. So, look, just because I focus on something doesn't mean something else doesn't exist. And that's what happened with, I said this at first about Oliver Darcy and CNN and Alex Jones. If you're not familiar, Darcy is the reporter who pushed really, really hard and got Alex Jones ultimately banned. At first I said, just because Oliver Darcy is reporting on this doesn't mean he's advocating for it. But then Oliver Darcy said the only reason Jones got banned was because of media pressure, and then he continued to apply pressure. So it seems like he knew that he was doing something to that effect. But I cover a lot of things, mostly in the cultural politics space. That's what I've always done. On the ground protests across the country, around the world, and even today I'm focusing on the tensions between, in society, between civil groups. But just because I'm focused specifically, so here's what I tell people. Let me step back a bit. They say, how come you cover Antifa and not far-right violence? And I say, because Antifa are the ones who show up to these events, okay? Atomwaffen didn't show up to a rally in Portland and start throwing bricks at people. They are weird, fringy, small groups. I'm going to cover the on-the-ground cultural commentary, politics type stuff, and if Antifa shows up, they get into the middle of it. But I've never actually gone to like an Antifa event. Antifa in the UK had some kind of like kickboxing tournament or something, karate tournament, I don't know. I didn't go to it. I don't go to events. I don't go to Antifa events. So I guess the main point I want to make is the second story, a Border Patrol agent being a serial killer in Laredo. This is something I think we should be highlighting and should be focusing on, specifically because law enforcement does need to be held to a higher standard. I don't know if you agree or disagree. You know, you can comment, let me know what you think. But I think law enforcement should uphold a higher standard because they should be setting an example. People are going to commit crimes. Crimes are going to happen. We need to know that the people who are enforcing our laws are above board. We need to know that they stand behind what they enforce. Because when you start having a police force that says, you know, rules for thee but not for me, then people are going to lose faith and lose confidence in them, and then you're going to see massive protests and things start to break down. We need police, we need law enforcement, we need Border Patrol agents who are going to say we will do more than is expected to show people how to be, we want to be examples of how people should be behaving, and then recognize that people will deviate. Not everyone agrees on everything, but I do believe there should be a higher standard. So when we hear that Border Patrol agents are doing things like this, and this is the second time, I do believe this is newsworthy, but I don't know. You can comment, let me know what you think. Anyway, I got one more video coming up in just a few minutes, so stick around.